Good day, welcome to our revision class. Today we'll be looking at how to study and pass your theory questions in your Ssce, that's Waec, Ssce Waec, NACO, all inclusive. So it's important at this juncture that we consider how a scholar should study comprehension passage, summary passage, aspects of writing, and come out with a good score. It's not out of place if you ace your English, all right? So it's very possible. You can actually have A in English. Yes. Someone may be asking, is it really possible? It's possible, and that's if you could give it your time. If you put much of your time in studying consistently, then you would pass. Now, I would want to separate the difference, or state rather, the difference between studying and learning. It is studying and reading rather. It is one thing to read, it is another thing to study. So when you read, there is always the possibility of you getting one or two things. Yes, that's reading. And remember, reading can be done in a hurry or it can be done slowly. But whichever way you look at it, you're just reading a passage, possibly for fun. Yes, but when you extend your reading for knowledge purposes, then you have moved from that reading for fun towards studying. Yes, so when you read because you want to extract ideas, you want to extract points, you want to understand what the passage is all about, then you have started studying. So it's important for us to know that aside reading our comprehension and summary passages, it is important for us to study it. So how do I go about all this? I want to study and pass my theory questions in English. How do I go about it? Point number one, it is important for us to consider the areas that are likely to come out. Under the first section of our theory questions, we have the writing aspect. The writing aspect, basically the essays and the letter writings. Now we see such questions as letter writings, and under letter writings, we are not certain about the one that would come out. But what thing we are sure of is that letter writing would come out. So how do I study so hard that if I see letter writing in any external examination I'm going for, basically our Ssce, NACO, or Waec, how do I go about studying so as to attempt the question outrightly and get it well? Now it's key that you map out time. You need to make a timetable for yourself. If you don't make a timetable for yourself, you are likely not to follow it. If you want to go about whenever I am less busy, I could go study, that would not be a good one. So it's important that first of all you map out a timetable for yourself. Now when you map out this timetable, tell yourself the days you are to write. All right, you want to study writing, be it essay writing or letter writing. Time yourself. Do not give yourself freedom. Yes, that it's on you, nobody is checking on you. No, you could actually time yourself. Kudos to technology that has given us a lot of timepiece that we could use. You have the clock in your house, you are not at home, you have your phone. You don't have your phone, you could have your wristwatch. So either of these things could serve as your timepiece. So when you time yourself, move on to writing the letter. Do not give yourself an extra time. If letter writing takes 20 minutes, time yourself to write letters within that stipulated time. That's the best way. Now, before you begin to time yourself, it's also important that you go through the modalities on how to write a letter. I always tell my students, knowing that letter writings will definitely come out, acquaint yourself with the 3 types of letter writing. Obviously, if formal letter doesn't come out, informal letter would come out. If informal letter doesn't come out, then semi-formal letter would come out. So when you abreast yourself with on how to write these 3 letter types, it is now time for you to do what? Move on to practicing. You need to practice. And a popular adage says, practice makes perfect. So if you don't practice writing, there is no way you would pass the exam. Don't say that you know it all, or is it not English, I can always go in and write letters. No, there are modalities. You have to study the laid down principles on letter writing. Now, if you say you're going to attempt the informal letter writing, what are the steps in doing so? You will agree with me that the steps that we have in writing an informal letter, they are not the same when we talk about the formal letter or the semi-formal letter. So it's very important that you go through these modalities, understand them, and practice. How do you know if you have comprehended what you have studied over time? It's by practicing. Then when you're done writing, look for someone to mark it for you, or you could use the marking grid when you want to mark it. But best bet, look for someone, a teacher around you, who would help you to mark it objectively. Let the person make necessary corrections and give it back to you. Feedback is very important. When you get your feedback, note the corrections made, ask for a repeat. Even if the person is not free to give you that, go on your own, look for topics and rewrite. When you rewrite, make sure that those corrections made, you effect them in your next writing. Give it back to the person, and he or she would as well mark and tell you where you have gotten it wrong and how to go about it the right way. Now, having talked about modalities on how to write the essays, the letters and the essays likewise, it's also important that we look at the aspect of the comprehension passages. I want to get 20 over 20 in my comprehension because that's the score. I want to score 20 over 20 in my comprehension, or at most 18. What do I do? Go through comprehension passages of all years. You need to study them. Do not think that you have studied enough. No. One thing I do tell people is this: as much as we think English is simple, they will never repeat a passage. It is not possible. A passage can never be repeated. You know why? Because there are so many stories told, and these stories can be used as passages. Now, when you go through so many years of past questions, you will agree with me that you've never seen a particular comprehension passage repeated twice. So that being the case, it's not out of place for you to begin from 10 years back to make your research, study them, answer the questions. Like I said earlier, time yourself. You must time yourself. Do not think that you are at liberty to use time the way you want. No, you will definitely be timed. That's one of exam ways of going about the right thing, okay? So you must understand that you will be timed, and having it in mind that you'll be timed, it is now necessary for you to time yourself as well. Objectively do that. Do not add sentiments to it. Once you time yourself, first of all, go through your comprehension questions. That's what I tell my students, and that's what I do. Do I still write exams? Yes, as a teacher, because obviously you could go for interviews and you are asked to attempt questions that you as well give to students. So the first thing I do is to go through my questions. So when you are practicing for your comprehension, first of all, go through the questions. Yes, there are about 6 questions, about 7 questions. Am I really going to register those questions in my head? It's not possible for you to register the 6 questions, but trust me, out of the 6 questions, you could still have 3 within you, all right, registered in your short-term memory. What do? At the time you're going through your comprehension passage, try to identify those questions. When you see answers that portray the questions that you have read, quickly use your pencil to underline. Using your pencil is not out of place. Use your pencil to underline, and when you underline them, when you're done reading the passage, go through the passage again. Then the third time you are now coming to answer the questions. Keep practicing. You want to study and pass, it is by practicing. Practice makes perfect. So if you don't practice over and over, identifying the mistakes and correcting them, effecting them by your next practice, then there is no way you would pass. Pass in the sense that you are getting your desired score, because that's what some people refer to as pass. Some people could get C6 and they'll say, no, I did not pass. But to some people, it's a pass for them. So if you are that one that are looking out for A1, B2 at most, then you really have to make out time to study and have an English teacher or someone who is good at English, all right, to teach you all of this. If you don't have anybody who is good at it, then you have to go look for your English teacher who would help you mark what you have done. Do not mark yourself, because the possibility that you could be sentimental in your marking is there. All right. Then I've talked about comprehension. There again, in comprehension, there are words. I'm particular about the words that are usually underlined. If the words are not underlined, then they are written in italics. Now, it is important for you to also understand that those words are not there because they want to beautify the essay. No, those phrases or those clauses or group of words that are written in italics are not there because they want to beautify the essay. They are there because they call for attention. The examiner is saying these words that you have seen, these phrases, these clauses or group of words you have seen that are written in a different format points to one thing. It tells you that something will definitely be asked about those things. That's how you study to pass. So what do you do when you are studying? Try to change the words. Those words, try to change them. Obviously, they will ask you to give the synonym of the singular words or possibly phrasal verbs. When you're asked to give the synonym, what do? Change them within the context. That's what I try to tell my students. You need to change those words within context. Never give the synonym of a word in your comprehension passage outside of context. I did say something of this nature in one of my videos when I was teaching antonyms and synonyms, particularly words similar in meaning, that we could have over 2-3 words that are synonymous to a particular word. But these 3 words that are synonymous to a given word may not and will not always be the same when used in context. There is a difference between contextual meaning of a word and singular meaning of a word. So knowing that these words are used in context, it is also necessary for you to give the word that is synonymous in context as well. So that's why as you're reading your comprehension passage, you come across these words that are written in italics or possibly underlined. Give the synonym. Try to remove the original word. Bring in your own and see if it passes the same information as the original. Now, that aside, we have the aspect of figures of speech. How do I study to pass? Get yourself acquainted with figures of speech. You have your simile, you have your metaphor, you have your onomatopoeia, you have your personification, you have hyperbole, depending American, British. All right, so you have your paradox, you have oxymoron. Studied your figures of speech, there is always a question on that. Finally is your grammatical name and function. You also have to look at books that treat questions on grammatical names and their functions. It's usually dicey. That aspect is hard for students, but trust me, if you are that student who have listened attentively to videos or read your textbooks and joined the two together, you will definitely pass. The last but not the least, please do well to have different materials for your study. Do not perch or hang on to a particular material. You want to study and pass, have so many sources. Don't be comfortable with one. There must be something you will gain from another. So have so many sources by your side. Your dictionary is very relevant. You must have it by your side because it contains all that you need to know. Then go online. Our videos are out there. My videos are out there. You could study how to approach questions, comprehension passages, we've treated them, summary questions, we've treated them. So you could go back to those videos, go through them, and identify what you think will help you to pass your exams. So as you study for your Ssce, for your NICO, for your Waec, I am praying that you will study the right way, apply all what we've said so far, and you'll be sure to ace that English. Bye.